Okay, here we go. All right, this is chapter one, how geographers look at the world. This is part one, geographers' tools. This is kind of a little saying about what geographers do. It's different than history. Like I told you at the beginning of this class, historians look through the lens of time to understand the past. Geographers look through the lens of space to understand place. Thought you're going to clap. Okay. When we talk about geography, you're going to see this word a lot. We're going to see spatial. Does anybody know what that means?
A way of looking at the human and physical patterns on Earth and relationships to one another.
Wow, that's awesome. You knew that right off your head? Oh, okay. No, that's good. Yeah. What I'm going for more is that's the nice textbook space in terms of space. That's kind of the simple version, but yes, that's very good. What's your name?
Avery.
Avery. Very good, Avery. Okay, so the systematic study of spatial patterns of all phenomena on or near Earth's surface. It is scientific and descriptive, explores interactions between people and environment. Those are the Greek origins down there. You got geo, meaning earth, and graphy, meaning writing. Okay, just like graphing. Like I told you, this is a subject that kind of blends everything. You got science, you got human studies, you got human studies. Did I just say that twice? But yes, so it kind of it blends a lot of things together, literature, all that kind of stuff. When we talk about physical geography, we're talking about everything about the earth, mountains, rivers, oceans, volcanoes, that kind of stuff. When we talk about human geography, we're talking about everything human, like population, culture, human activities, human environment interaction. That's a huge thing, okay? How do humans interact with where they live? Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. Geography is the why of where. Why do people live where they live? And most of the time it revolves around how they can survive. So when you talk about people and humans, what do we need to survive? We need food. Well, first we need oxygen, then we need water, then we need food. It's like survival. You guys watch those survival shows? You could survive 3 minutes without air. You could survive 3 days without water, and you could survive 30 days without food. I mean, okay. Anyway, so yeah, it's a rule of three. Why do people live where they live? Most of the time it's because it's around water, it's around resources. That's kind of changed with technology, and that's why humans are such a successful species, because think about something like air conditioner. Back in the day, before air conditioners, if it was hot, you leave somewhere cool, right? Now we got cities in the desert because we just go inside and we're in air conditioners. We adapted and we modified to the environment so that we could survive there. There's no ocean. There's one river or two rivers in Arizona, but there's not places where it's cool and there's water and there's fish. We just made a city in the middle of the desert, and we use technology to make it livable for humans. That's why humans are a successful race. That's why we've survived. 99.9% of all species go extinct. Humans have lasted so long because we adapted and modified so well. When you think about survival of the fittest, we're not very strong compared to a lion or a bear. We're not fast compared to a cheetah or a lion or a bear. But we're very smart, so we use our brains to adapt to our environment. Okay? That's an important part of geography and why we live where we live and how we live where we live and how we've been such a successful species. Okay? This is more subfields of human geography. You got population, how many people are born, how many people die. Infant mortality rate is a big indicator of how developed the country is. So when you talk about women being pregnant and how many infants pass away versus how many stay alive, that's a big indicator of a lot of things like the medical facilities in that country, technology, all that kind of stuff. So Infant mortality rate is huge, even though it's kind of like, well, why is that thing big? But infant mortality rate is a huge indicator of how developed or undeveloped the country is. Okay? Economics, things like agriculture, there's level of development, wealth. Then you got urban areas, how population is distributed in whatever country, and then of course you got political governments, and what kind of government is also a big indicator of how developed or undeveloped that country is. Most of the time when a country is undeveloped, you kind of have a centralized government like communism or dictatorship, something like that. When it's more developed, you have things like representative democracy, sort of like we do, where everybody kind of has a say instead of one person just telling other people what to do. So that's a big indicator of how developed or more better off the country is. Okay? And that's all part of human geography, because that has nothing to do with rivers, oceans, mountains, nothing like that. This is all human geography. These are things geographers ask, human geographers, where people are located, what are they like, what are their interactions over space, and what kind of landscapes do they build. And again, that all depends on where you live and what's in your environment and what you have to do to survive and be a successful society. Okay. This is a picture of Earth at night. Do you notice how some places are brighter than others? Yes. Why do you think they're brighter than others? Population, but why would they? So why are the bright areas bright? Technology. Now what I want you to look at is essentially you have light, more light, so people are living where the light is. People live there, so they need light, so there's more light. Okay, there's bigger cities where the light is. But most of the time, there's always people around coast. Why would that make sense? Yes, fishing, that's food. There's better farming. There's shipping, so there's transportation and trade, so there's economy. There's water. If you have a desolate area, look at the middle of most of these continents, you don't have a lot of lights because people don't live there because it's harder to live there. That's just something we're going to go into when we get there. No? That's one of those themes of geography that we're going to encounter over and over again. People live by coast. People live by water. Okay, this is kind of so you get an idea. This is bathrooms from across the world. And it says everyone does it, but it just looks a little different. So this is what I'm talking about again. We're going to adapt and modify because we're smart people. We adapt and modify to the environment we're in and also the resources that we have. So you look at a toilet in the United States compared to Italy, compared to the United Kingdom, to Namibia, to Thailand. Everybody has their different ways of doing things based on where they live and what resources they have. Now this is just a very small sample of everything. So this is just toilets. Then we get into the way people live, the way people communicate, the way people survive, and then we start talking about that's why sometimes we have wars, because people just believe differently. Religion's a huge indicator of that. Economy is a huge thing. We have so many differences because we're from so many different places. We don't understand people. When you don't understand people, you start to get annoyed, upset with people, and then all of a sudden we have wars and stuff like that, just because we don't understand why they are the way they are. Okay. These are things that we're going to use every day in class. This kind of just terms that I'm going to use. MDC stands for more developed country. Used to be called first world country. Now we call it a more developed country. LDC is a less developed country. So by developed country, I mean essentially wealthier, better schools, better medical, a better government, a more stable government. And then you have HIE, which is healthcare, infrastructure, and education. So infrastructure stuff like schools, roads, that kind of stuff. And then education down there, it says especially of women. That's a big thing because you think of the United States in the 1920s, women had just gotten the right to vote. Women are barely starting to come outside of the house. It wasn't normal for them, and that's when the United States started getting more developed. Okay, so you talk about, well, as a country, how is the education of their women? That's a good indicator of how developed that country is. Okay, so you talk about infant mortality rate and the education of women. There's ESPN or ESPEN, which is just economic, social, political, and environmental. So sometimes I'll give you a note and it says ESPN, and I'm talking about, okay, what is the economics of this place? What is the social status of this place? What's the political and what's going on environmentally of Europe? Something. Okay, so that's just kind of stuff we look at. This is kind of the history of geography. You got Aristotle, who was the first one to make a spherical Earth. Eratosthenes is the guy most people credit as the father of geography. He's also the guy that most people credit for latitude and longitude. This guy was a mathematician. He was also a scientist. He came up with an algorithm for prime numbers, but I'm not a math guy, so don't ask me about that. Ptolemy, he kind of put all this Greek knowledge together and really made geography a field. Okay. Here's Christopher Columbus. Of course, we know that he did a lot of bad stuff now, and that's why you have that anti-Christopher Columbus deal going on, because he killed a lot of people, and he obviously wasn't a good guy, but yes, he gives us a day off of school. And so, you know, he did a lot of stuff with mapping, and that's why he's important for geography, and that's why he was able to, you know, I guess, navigate through oceans, so that's important for him. Mercator, he's going to be influential when we talk about a Mercator map projection. Yes, sir. Yes, but he navigated the oceans, and that's why he's influential. Yeah, just like Kanye. Anyway, so more recently, this guy was from the 1900s. This is Carl Sauer. This guy started actually applying human geography to physical geography. So now it just wasn't maps, oceans, mountains, continents, plate tectonics, that kind of stuff. Now he started developing, this is population distribution, this is why people live where they live, this is why people interact the way they do, all that kind of stuff. It's Carl Sauer. All right, almost done. Okay, these are two kinds of data that geographers use. They're qualitative and quantitative. When you talk about quantitative, I want you to think of quantity. So you think of numbers. That's where mathematicians and those numbers kind of get involved. When you talk about qualitative, I want you to think about someone's qualities, okay? So you talk about, I don't know, what are the qualities of Caleb Winston? Caleb, what are your qualities?
Like physical or?
Yeah, let's go physical, sure.
Taller, bigger?
Okay, taller, bigger, what else? Blacker?
Black hair.
Black hair, okay. I'm gonna get you in a minute. Okay. All right, so he's tall, he has black hair, that kind of stuff. So those are qualities. That's what you think of when you think of qualitative data, okay? So you talk about observations, interviews, interpretations of text, all the qualities of them. Quantitative is numbers, okay? Okay, these are some of the things that you think about. Just like the scientific system, you ask questions, acquire information, organize information, analyze the information, then you can answer the questions based on the data that you compiled. Here is geospatial technologies. You got geographic information system, which essentially just compiles all different kinds of data based on the maps that we have, things like population. Over here you have these layers. So each one would be like physical features, topography, then you have political stuff, so it just kind of organizes that information. Then GPS, that's something you guys are all familiar with. We got that on our phone. And then you got remote sensing, which is basically satellites send data to us over long distances. Okay, so this is all kind of technologies that geographers use. Okay, I added this here because this is what we're going to be talking about next time. And this is the thing that you guys have the biggest issue with, okay? And I just want you to listen, because if you start talking, everything just gets mixed up. So this is just thinking about next time, okay? This line running north and south is a longitude line, okay? This is a longitude line. They run north and south, okay? The way I remember it is thinking of long hair. Longitude, hair runs north and south, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay, these lines are latitude. These ones run east to west. I remember that by saying latitude, fatitude. Okay, latitude, fatitude, longitude, long hair. Okay, that's just the way I remember it. You may have something else. Now, that's not the confusing part. The confusing part is that longitude lines measure east and west. I know that's like, what the heck? How does that make sense? But let me explain it. Okay, this line right here is the prime meridian. Okay, it would have 0 degrees on it. This line would be our 10-degree line. This line 20. This line 30. Okay, just bear with me. So you have 0, 10, 20, 30. So if I'm saying where is 30 degrees east? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. You see how I measured east and west? You see that? Now, if we're talking about latitude, this is our equator, so it's at 0. Now we got 10, 20, 30. So if I said, okay, what is 30 degrees north? Okay, 0, 10, 20, 30. So latitude lines measure north and south, but latitude runs east and west. Now that's the part that confuses you guys, but I don't want you to confuse it, and that's why I'm giving you this before we actually get into our latitude, longitude. Longitude runs north and south, measures east and west. Latitude runs east and west, but it measures north and south. And that'll be something that we really get into next time. Pretty good? Question?